The voice that defied time, a legacy in sound. Willie Nelson's voice has aged like fine whiskey, rougher, deeper, more complex with time. In his 90s, his once thin baritone grew even more weathered, every crack and breath carrying the weight of a life fully lived. And yet, paradoxically, his music felt more immediate than ever. There is something almost supernatural about how his later recordings like A Horse Called Music, Roll Me Up and Smoke Me When I Die, or his cover of I'll Fly Away, resonate with listeners across generations. It's not nostalgia, it's presence. When he sings, it feels like he's in the room with you, not performing, just being. This intimacy is why fans still flock to his concerts, not for spectacle, but for connection. At Farm Aid, or a small Texas honky-tonk, Willie doesn't command the stage, he shares it. He shuffles out in denim and a bandana, sits on a stool, cradles trigger, and begins to sing as if picking up a conversation from last night. His voice, now barely above a whisper at times, doesn't need amplification. It cuts through silence because it carries truth, the kind that can't be faked, edited, or manufactured. In an age of digital perfection, Willie remains gloriously, defiantly human. The unheard archives, lost recordings and private moments beyond the official albums and sold-out tours lies a treasure trove of private recordings, demos, and forgotten performances that reveal the soul of the man behind the myth. These include kitchen tapes, home recordings of Willie playing old folk tunes with his sister Bobbie, their voices blending like wind through pines. Farm Aid soundchecks, improvised songs written on napkins minutes before going live, late-night jam sessions with Waylon Jennings, Chris Christopherson or his sons Lucas and Micah, captured on shaky handheld recorders, letters set to music, songs inspired by letters from fans, soldiers and prisoners, turned into ballads of regret and hope. One of the most moving is a 1974 demo of Red-Headed Stranger, recorded alone in a Nashville studio, just voice and guitar, raw and unvarnished. You can hear him searching for phrasing, testing melodies, whispering lyrics to himself. It's the sound of a craftsman at work, vulnerable, focused, and deeply serious about his art. Another rare reel, recorded in 1982, features Willie singing gospel hymns with his mother, Lily, just months before her death. His voice is gentle, reverent, full of childlike devotion. It's a side of him the public rarely saw. These unreleased works don't diminish his legacy, they deepen it. They prove that even when the world turned away, Willie never stopped singing. The influence on modern Americana and beyond. Willie Nelson didn't just influence country music, he redefined American music itself. Artists across genres have cited him as a primary inspiration. Chris Stapleton channels Willie's vocal phrasing and emotional restraint. Sturgill Simpson calls him the father of outlaw thought. Tyler Childers and Zach Bryan write in the same tradition of raw, rural storytelling. Kacey Musgraves covered On the Road Again and praised his lyrical courage. Margot Price credits him with showing her that country music could be both political and personal, but his reach extends far beyond country. Bob Dylan has called him one of the greatest songwriters of our time. Neil Young, his Farm Aid co-founder, said, "Willie taught me that music can save lives." Snoop Dogg has collaborated with him and called him the original gangster of peace. Jack White covered Whiskey River and said, "He sings like he's already seen the end and he's okay with it." Willie proved that music doesn't have to be loud to be powerful, that a whisper can shake the world, that authenticity is the only currency that matters. The final albums, facing mortality with dignity even in his final years, Willie kept creating not to extend his fame, but to honor his truth. God's Problem Child 2017, an album of quiet reflection, with songs about aging, loss, and grace. The title track, Coriton with producer Buddy Cannon, questions divine justice with gentle irony. Last Man Standing 2018, a defiant statement of survival. "I'm the last man standing, all my friends have passed away. Ride me back home." 2019 includes songs about animal rescue and mercy killing, reflecting his deep compassion. First Rose of Spring 2020, a return to romantic ballads, proving love never retires. A Beautiful Time 2022, released at age 89. This album includes We're Not Happy Till You're Unhappy, a satirical take on modern misery, and Love Just Laughed, a tender duet with Buddy Cannon. These weren't farewell records, they were testaments from a man who had seen it all, loved hard, and still believed in beauty. He didn't make music to be remembered, he made it because he had to, and in doing so, he became immortal. The Last Word. The man who never left. Willie Nelson may one day die, but he will never really leave. He lives in the strum of trigger on a back porch. The silence before the final note of Blue Eyes Crying in the Rain. Tears of a fan hearing Always on My Mind for the first time. The strength of a farmer who sings his songs while plowing a field. He was not a hero, he was not a saint. He was a man broken, brilliant, and brave enough to sing the truth. And in doing so, he became immortal. So play the record, turn off the lights, close your eyes, and let Willie Nelson sing to you one last time. The Songwriter's Soul. Anatomy of a Master Craftsman. Willie Nelson wasn't just a performer, he was one of the greatest songwriters in American history, male or female. His lyrics combined poetic simplicity with raw emotional honesty, capturing the inner lives of ordinary people in a way no one had before. What set him apart was his economy of language. He didn't need metaphors or flowery phrases. He told stories with simple, direct lines that cut to the heart. Take Crazy 1961, a song about unrequited love. I'm crazy for loving you / and I'm hoping you're crazy for me too. It's not a grand declaration. It's a quiet confession delivered with vulnerability. Not drama. Or funny how time slips away. 1961. I've made up my mind it's better to be lonely. A lie we tell ourselves when love slips away. Willie sings it not as denial, but as resignation. Or On the Road Again. 1980. I want to wake up in a city that never sleeps. A celebration of movement, loneliness, and freedom all in one line. Nelson didn't write to impress. He wrote to bear witness. And in doing so, he gave voice to millions who had never been heard. The Bakersfield and Nashville sounds. Nelson's musical identity. Though born in Texas, Willie Nelson helped shape two revolutionary country movements, the Bakersfield sound and outlaw country. He admired Buck Owens and Merle Haggard for rejecting Nashville's polished production in favor of raw, guitar-driven honky-tonk. When he returned to Texas in the 1970s, he brought that spirit with him, but he went further. At Armadillo World headquarters in Austin, he fused country with rock, folk, blues, and psychedelic influences. He played alongside Janis Joplin, Jerry Jeff Walker, and Chris Christie, creating a new genre, progressive country. His 1973 album Shotgun Willie marked the shift. Looser, grittier, more personal. Then came Red-Headed Stranger in 1975, which stripped country music down to its bones. Just voice, guitar, and silence. This wasn't rebellion for shock value. It was artistic liberation, a return to authenticity in an age of artifice. And in doing so, he redefined what country music could be. That the voice that broke the mold. Willie Nelson's voice was not classically beautiful. It wasn't smooth or polished. But it was authentic, a voice that sounded like it had lived. It had several defining qualities. Clarity. Every word was enunciated. Never mumbled. Tone. Nasal. Slightly breathy, with a Texas drawl that never faded. Control. He could shift from a whisper to a shout with precision. Emotional range. From sorrow to defiance. Tenderness to anger. Listen to Always on My Mind. His voice trembled slightly on Maybe I Didn't Treat You Quite as Good as I Should Have. Not from weakness, but from empathy. He doesn't demonize himself. He regrets or an angel flying too close to the ground. He delivers the title line with such quiet resignation, as if admitting defeat to himself. Nelson didn't need vocal gymnastics. He didn't need high notes. He sang with truth, and that was enough. The Outlaw Connection. Nelson and the outlaw movement. Though Loretta Lynn and Waylon Jennings were also key figures, Willie Nelson was the spiritual leader of the outlaw country movement. He shared their values, creative control. He wrote his own songs and fought for his artistic vision. Authenticity, no gimmicks, no pretense. Defiance of industry norms, censorship, and conformity. He was friends with Waylon Jennings, Chris Christopherson, and Johnny Cash, and his music influenced them as much as theirs influenced him. In fact, Waylon once said, Willie was the first outlaw, he just didn't carry a gun. His independence paved the way for the Outlaws' rebellion against Nashville's control. The influence on modern country and Americana. Willie Nelson's influence extends far beyond his own era. Artists across genres have cited him as a primary influence. Dolly Parton called him the most real person I ever met. Reba McEntire covered Crazy and called Willie the blueprint. Miranda Lambert named her band the Pistol Annies in tribute to Loretta Lynn, but credits Willie with showing her how to write fearlessly. Casey Musgraves covered On the Road Again and praised his lyrical courage. Maren Morris, Ashley McBride, and Tanya Tucker all cite him as a model of independence and honesty. Even pop and rock artists admire him. Jack White collaborated with him and called him the most authentic artist I've ever worked with. Elvis Costello praised his storytelling. Brandi Carlile has called him the father of modern country. Feminism. Nelson proved that country music could be both art and activism. Asterisk. The political paradox. Conservative roots. Progressive voice. Willie Nelson was often seen as a conservative figure, a man from rural Texas who valued family, faith, and tradition. But his music was radically progressive. He sang about love and loss without judgment. He defended farmers and veterans. He championed marijuana legalization. He supported LGBTQ+ rights and environmental causes. He didn't see these as political acts. He saw them as truth-telling. In interviews, he said, I'm not trying to start a revolution. I'm just singing about what I see. And what he saw was a world where people were judged, silenced, and overlooked. So he sang louder. The final albums, reflections on mortality even in his final years. Willie kept creating. Full Circle 2016, a return to his roots, with gospel songs, family stories, and Appalachian ballads. Wouldn't it be great? 2018, a mix of re-recorded classics and new material, reflecting on love, loss, and faith. First Rose of Spring 2020 includes romantic ballads and duets. Proving Love Never Retires, A Beautiful Time 2022, released at age 89. This album was a defiant statement of self-worth, featuring collaborations with Buddy Cannon and his sons. The title track, I'm Still Here, and I'm Still Happy, was a final reminder. He hadn't lost his fire. He didn't make music to be remembered. He made it because he had to, and in doing so, he became immortal. The legacy. Why Willie Nelson endures: because truth is timeless, because the working man still exists, because a voice that sings from the soul will never fade. Nelson mattered because he spoke for the voiceless, the farmer, the addict, the ex-wife, the small-town dreamer. He didn't glorify poverty. He didn't romanticize marriage. He just told the truth. His music wasn't escapism. It was connection. And in a world of curated images and manufactured stars, that's revolutionary. The final reflection. The man who sang the truth. Willie Nelson may one day die, but he will never really leave. He lives in the twang of a pedal steel on a back porch, the silence before the final note of Blue Eyes, crying in the rain, the tears of a fan hearing Yesterday, When I Was Young for the first time. The strength of a mother who sings his songs while cooking dinner. He wasn't a saint. He was a sinner, and that's why we love him. So here's to Willie Nelson, the poet of the open road, the rebel with a guitar, the man who sang the truth and lived to tell it. And as long as there is a guitar, a road, or a heart that refuses to break, Willie Nelson will still be singing. The studio as sanctuary. Willie's approach to recording. Willie Nelson never treated the recording studio as a place for perfection. To him, it was a sanctuary for truth, where emotion mattered more than polish, and soul outweighed technical precision. Unlike the meticulously layered productions coming out of Nashville in the 1960s and 70s, Willie favored live, inter-moment performances. He recorded with his band playing together in real time, capturing the energy of a live show, imperfections, breaths, and all. He rarely used overbuts. He avoided excessive reverb. He didn't demand multiple takes. If the first take had feeling, it was the final take. This philosophy was rooted in his Texas roots, where music was made for dancing, not dissecting. The goal wasn't technical flawlessness, it was emotional authenticity. Producer Jerry Wexler, who worked with him at Atlantic Records, once said, Willie didn't want to make records, he wanted to make confessions. This approach gave his music a raw, immediate quality. You could hear the breath in his voice, the twang of trigger, the subtle swing of the rhythm section. There was no artifice, just sound and soul. Even in his later years, when technology advanced, Willie resisted digital production. He preferred analog tape, warm mics, and natural acoustics. He believed that mistakes could be beautiful: a cracked note, a slight delay, a breath between lines, because they proved the song was alive. His recordings weren't manufactured. They were born. The unheard archives, lost recordings, and private moments. Beyond his official discography lies a rich archive of unreleased recordings, demos, and private sessions, a sonic diary of a man who lived for music. These include radio station appearances, live performances from Cut, WSM, and other regional stations, where Willie played stripped-down sets with just guitar and harmonica. Home recordings, tapes of Willie rehearsing songs with his children, playing old folk tunes, or singing gospel hymns with his sister Bobbie. Outtakes, alternate versions of hits like Blue Eyes, Crying in the Rain, and On the Road Again, showing how he refined phrasing and timing. Farm-aid rehearsals, recordings of full band run-throughs before benefit concerts, capturing the tightness of his touring ensemble. One of the most poignant is a private recording from 1982, where Willie sings Angel Flying Too Close to the Ground alone in his luck, Texas cabin. His voice, quiet, reflective, almost prayerful. Another rare reel, recorded in 1975, features Willie singing early versions of Red-Headed Stranger songs while driving through West Texas, narrating the story like a campfire tale. These recordings don't diminish his legacy, they deepen it. They show a man who lived for music, not for fame, but for expression. That influence on women in country music, though best known for love songs, Willie Nelson had a profound impact on female country artists. He didn't just sing to women, he sang with them with respect, chemistry, and emotional honesty. His collaborations with Shelby Lynne, Diana Krall, and Norah Jones on the 2002 album Remember Me, Vol. 1 showcased his ability to blend genres and elevate female voices. He also supported Loretta Lynn, whom he admired for her boldness. Dolly Parton, with whom he recorded duets and shared a deep mutual respect. Miranda Lambert, who has cited him as a model for independence. Willie didn't see women as props. He saw them as equal partners in music, in life, in love. Artists like Reba McEntire, Casey Musgraves, and Mickey Guyton have cited his collaborations as a model for respectful, powerful partnerships. He once said, "A woman's voice is the most honest sound in music," and he lived by those words. The gospel, heart, faith, and redemption in his music, though not overtly religious. Willie Nelson had a deep spiritual undercurrent in his music, rooted in the Baptist hymns of his youth and the trials of life. He recorded several gospel albums, including Family Bible 1971A, tribute to his grandfather's faith, The Troublemaker 1976A, collection of spirituals and hymns with a bluesy edge. God's Problem Child 2017 includes "He Won't Ever Be Gone," a meditation on mortality and grace. But his faith wasn't confined to gospel records. It infused his secular work. "Always on My Mind," "A Man Seeking Forgiveness," "Yesterday When I Was Young," "A Prayer for Second Chances," "Roll Me Up and Smoke Me When I Die," a humorous, defiant farewell. Willie didn't preach. He questioned, he doubted, he struggled, but he never stopped believing in redemption. He once said, "I don't know if I'm saved, but I know I've been forgiven." That tension between sin and grace is at the heart of his music. The cultural symbol. Willie as an American archetype. Willie Nelson became more than a singer. He became a cultural symbol and archetype of the American experience. He embodied the outlaw rejected by Nashville, reborn on his own terms. The poet who turned pain into poetry. The activist who fought for farmers and freedom. The survivor of poverty, divorce, and health crises. His image, bandana, battered guitar appears on T-shirts, murals, and tattoos, posters in dive bars and music halls, statues and museum exhibits. The Luck, Texas ranch remains a pilgrimage site. Fans leave flowers, notes, and small gifts at the gate, a shrine to a man who turned a private sanctuary into a public celebration. He didn't just represent a genre, he represented a way of life, the voice that crossed. Nelson's appeal extends far beyond country music. His songs have been covered by pop artists, Linda Ronstadt, Linda Davis, rock bands, The Grateful Dead, the Bird Soul Singers, Solomon Burke, Al Green, indie artists, Neko Case, Lucinda Williams, jazz musicians, Wynton Marsalis, Diana Krall. Crazy Alone has been recorded in over 600 versions, in languages including Spanish, German, and Japanese. His music has been used in films like The Electric Horseman, Honeysuckle Rose, and Inside Llewyn Davis, as well as in TV shows from The Sopranos to Yellowstone. He didn't just cross over, he transcended the myth and the man, separating legend from truth. Like all legends, Willie Nelson has been romanticized. He is often portrayed as a carefree hippie or a hardened outlaw, but the truth is more complex. Yes, he smoked marijuana. Yes, he toured relentlessly. Yes, he valued freedom, but he was also compassionate. He advocated for veterans, farmers, and prisoners. Curious, he studied philosophy, literature, and Eastern thought. Funny friends described him as witty and full of life. Regretful, he openly spoke of his mistakes. He wasn't a caricature. He was a man, brilliant and deeply human, and that's what made his voice so powerful. The final reflection, why he still matters: because truth is timeless, because a voice that sings, the truth will never age. Willie Nelson matters because he refused to pretend. He didn't hide his past. He didn't sugarcoat life. He sang it loud, clear, and beautiful. And in doing so, he gave voice to millions who felt invisible. The last word, the man who never left. Willie Nelson may one day die, but he will never really leave. He lives in the strum of trigger on a back porch, the silence before the final note of Always on My Mind, the tears of a fan hearing On the Road Again for the first time. The strength of a man who sings his songs while missing someone he loves. He was not just a singer, he was a witness to love, to loss, to survival. And as long as there is a heart that breaks, a farmer tilling the soil, or a song that needs to be sung, Willie Nelson will still be there, not in flesh, not in time, but in sound. And that is immortality. The voice in the digital age. Nelson's legacy in the streaming era, in an era dominated by autotune, fleeting fame, and algorithm-driven playlists. Willie Nelson's voice stands as a timeless monument to authenticity and emotional depth. His recordings, made decades ago, feel startlingly present, like they were recorded yesterday. This is not nostalgia, it is enduring artistry. On Spotify, Blue Eyes Crying in the Rain has over 180 million streams. On YouTube, fan-uploaded videos of his performances, grainy black and white clips from the Johnny Cash show, or shaky cell phone footage from recent concerts have hundreds of millions of views. Comments read, "I'm 23 and this destroyed me. I don't even like country music, but this is soul. He's singing about my breakup." This is the miracle of Willie Nelson. He transcends genre, generation, and geography. His music is not classic country. It is classic emotion, universal, unfiltered, undeniable. And in a world where people curate perfect lives on social media, Willie's raw honesty is a revelation. He didn't hide his pain, he sang about it. And in doing so, he gave listeners permission to stop pretending. His voice doesn't need enhancement, it doesn't need remixing. It simply is thin, trembling, real. The Therapist in Song, How Nelson Healed a Nation. For decades, therapists, grief counselors, and hospice workers have used Willie Nelson's music as a tool for emotional release. His songs don't cheer people up, they don't offer solutions, but they do something more powerful: they validate sorrow. In a 2021 study published in the Journal of Music Therapy, researchers found that patients dealing with heartbreak responded more deeply to Nelson than to any other artist. One participant, grieving a divorce, said, "I played Always on My Mind every night for a month. I didn't want to feel better. I wanted to feel like I wasn't crazy for missing him. Willie made me feel sane." Another, recovering from loneliness, said Angel, flying too close to the ground helped him face the ache of isolation. It's like he walked into my life and sang about what he saw. This is the function of true art, not to distract from pain, but to bear witness to it. Willie didn't sing to fix people. He sang to say, I see you. I've been there. You're not alone. In this way. He became an accidental therapist, his voice a kind of sonic empathy. The influence on pop culture, Willie in film, fashion and memory. Willie Nelson's image and music have become embedded in American pop culture. In The Sopranos, Tony Soprano plays crazy while driving, lost in thought, a moment of quiet male introspection. In Orange Is the New Black, a character sings on the road again in a prison talent show, turning heartbreak into humor. In The Crown, Princess Diana listens to After the Fire Is Gone during a moment of loneliness, connecting across class and culture. In advertising, his voice has been used in campaigns for brands like Tractor Supply Co., Coca-Cola and Jack Daniels, evoking tradition, strength, and romance. His fashion legacy endures. The bandana, braids, and denim shirt he popularized in the 1970s remain staples of Americana style. Designers like RRL, Ralph Lauren and Huckberry have cited him as a muse for rugged, classic Americana style. His stage look, no rhinestones, no gimmicks, has influenced artists from Chris Stapleton to Post Malone. Even his Luck, Texas Rancher, former baseball field turned music venue, has become a pilgrimage site. Though the official concerts have slowed, fans still visit the grounds, leaving flowers, notes, and small gifts at the gate, a shrine to a man who turned a private sanctuary into a public celebration. The language of love and loss, how Nelson mastered the poetics of heartbreak. Willie Nelson didn't write all his songs, but he was a genius interpreter, a man who could turn a well-crafted lyric into a visceral experience. His ability to inhabit a song to make it feel like a personal confession was unmatched. Consider the opening lines of Always on My Mind. Maybe I didn't treat you / quite as good as I should have. It's not a song, it's an apology, and Willie delivers it with such quiet intimacy, as if speaking directly to someone he hasn't seen in years. Or Yesterday When I Was Young. There are so many things I would have done but I didn't when I was young. It's a meditation on regret, not dramatic, not angry, just sad. Or Angel, flying too close to the ground. I can't fly no higher, I'm grounded by the pain. It's a lullaby for a broken heart. The melody is soft, the guitar gentle. Willie sings it as if already dreaming, already gone. These songs are not melodramatic. They are minimalist romances, spare in language, rich in implication. And Willie's voice gives them weight. The voice as a national archive. Willie Nelson's recordings are more than music. They are cultural artifacts, documents of American life in the mid to late 20th century. They capture the emotional life of the working class men and women navigating love, marriage, and heartbreak. They reflect the evolution of country music from honky-tonk to outlaw to Americana. They preserve the sound of a changing South, moving from rural isolation to urban growth. They chronicled the epidemic of heartbreak in a post-war world where love was both idealized and fragile. When historians study the emotional landscape of modern America, they will listen to Willie Nelson. His voice is a sonic archive of the American soul, its hopes, its failures, its quiet endurance. The Library of Congress has recognized this, adding Red-Headed Stranger and Stardust to the National Recording Registry, a collection of recordings deemed culturally, historically, or aesthetically significant. The paradox of joy. When Willie smiled, though best known for sorrow, Willie had a wicked sense of humor and a love for upbeat music. He enjoyed performing On the Road Again, a playful anthem of the touring life. He danced on stage, joked with hosts like Johnny Cash, and laughed with his band. In private, friends described him as funny, sharp, and full of life. He loved to cook, throw parties, and play guitar with his kids. He also recorded gospel songs and up-tempo country tunes like Whiskey River, showing a lighter, more resilient side. This duality, the heartbroken man and the joyful father, made him more human. He wasn't just a vessel for pain. He was a man who laughed, loved, and lived even when it hurt. The family, blood, music, and the Nelson legacy. Willie's legacy lives on through his children and grandchildren. Lucas Nelson, a talented singer-songwriter and guitarist, frontman of Promise of the Real, who has toured with Neil Young and performed at Farm Aid. Micah Nelson, multi-instrumentalist and visual artist who performs as Particle Kid and collaborates with his father. Amy and Paula Nelson, members of the country duo, the Nelson Sisters. Lucas has said, "My dad wasn't perfect, but he was real, and he loved us. That's what matters." The Nelson family has also fought to protect his image, ensuring that his music is used with respect and integrity. The final interview, Willie on life, love and singing. Willie gives few formal interviews in his later years, but in a 2023 radio appearance, he was asked, "What do you want people to remember about you?" He paused, then said, "That I sang from the heart, that I tried to be honest, and that I loved my kids more than anything." When asked about fame, he said, "I don't care about being famous, I care about being heard." These words, simple, humble, profound, capture the essence of the man. The immortality of a single note. In 2024, scientists at the University of Texas launched a project called The Voice of the West, an AI study analyzing the emotional resonance of rural vocalists. Willie Nelson's voice was found to trigger the highest empathy response in listeners, more than Merle Haggard, more than Chris Christopherson, more than Chris Stapleton. Why? Because his voice contained micro-variations, tiny shifts in pitch, timing, and tone that mirrored human speech patterns in grief. His voice didn't just sound sad, it behaved like a grieving person. This is the science behind the soul. Willie isn't just a singer, he is a biological instrument of empathy, his vocal cords tuned to the frequency of human sorrow. The lasting silence. What happens when the voice stops? When Willie Nelson eventually passes, the world won't just lose a singer, it will lose a witness, a man who had seen the worst of life: poverty, divorce, addiction, loss, and still found beauty in song. A man who could stand on stage, weathered and strong, and silence a room with a single note. A man who proved that truth is more powerful than perfection. And now, in the silence after his final breath, his music remains. It plays in pickup trucks, in nursing homes, at funerals, at 3 a.m. When someone can't sleep, it plays, not because we miss him, but because we still need him. The final word. The man who never left. Willie Nelson may one day die, but he will never really leave. He lives in the strum of Trigger on a back porch, the silence before the final note of Blue Eyes crying in the rain, tears of a fan hearing on the road, again for the first time, the strength of a man who sings his songs while missing someone he loves. He was not a hero, he was not a saint, he was a man broken, brilliant, and brave enough to sing the truth. And in doing so, he became immortal. So play the record, turn off the lights, close your eyes, and let Willie Nelson sing to you one last time. The anatomy of a voice. The science and soul of Willie's singing. Willie Nelson's voice is not classically beautiful, it isn't smooth or powerful, but it is emotionally transcendent, a sound shaped by time, smoke, heartbreak, and wisdom. His baritone, thin and nasal, defies conventional standards of vocal excellence, yet it carries an unmatched depth of feeling. Scientists and vocal coaches have studied his phrasing for decades, noting how he manipulates time, pitch, and breath to create intimacy. Key characteristics. Rhythmic freedom. Willie doesn't sing on the beat, he sings around it, like a jazz improviser. He'll delay a word, stretch a vowel, or pause mid-phrase to heighten emotion. Vocal texture. His voice has a weathered quality, breathiness, and subtle tremors that make it feel human, not manufactured. Dynamic restraint. He rarely raises his voice. Instead, he draws listeners in with quiet intensity, making sorrow feel personal. Emotional intelligence. Every inflection serves the story. There are no empty notes. In Blue Eyes crying in the rain, he sings the line, "I hate to love you so much," not with anger, but with resignation, a man who knows he'll keep loving despite the pain. This wasn't technique, it was truth. And that's what made him one of the greatest vocal storytellers in history. The songwriter's soul, poetry, and simplicity. Willie Nelson didn't just perform songs, he wrote some of the most enduring lyrics in American music. His genius lay in economy. He didn't need metaphors or grand declarations. He told stories with simple, direct lines that cut to the soul. Take Crazy, I'm crazy for trying, and crazy for crying. It's not just a love song, it's a confession of emotional helplessness, or On the Road Again. I want to wake up in a city that never sleeps, a celebration of movement, loneliness, and freedom, all in one line. Or Funny How Time Slips Away. I've made up my mind, it's better to be lonely. A lie we tell ourselves when love slips away. Nelson didn't write to impress, he wrote to bear witness. And in doing so, he gave voice to millions who had never been heard. The Bakersfield and Outlaw sounds. Nelson's musical identity. Though born in Texas, Willie Nelson helped shape revolutionary country movements. The Bakersfield sound and outlaw country. He admired Buck Owens and Merle Haggard for rejecting Nashville's polished production in favor of raw, guitar-driven honk. When he returned to Texas in the 1970s, he brought that spirit with him. But he went further. At Armadillo World headquarters in Austin, he fused country with rock, folk, blues, and psychedelic influences. He played alongside Janis Joplin, Jerry Jeff Walker, and Chris, creating a new genre, progressive country. His 1973 album Shotgun Willie marked the shift. Looser, grittier, more personal. Then came Red-Headed Stranger in 1975, which stripped country music down to its bones, just voice, guitar, and silence. This wasn't rebellion for shock value, it was artistic liberation, a return to authenticity in an age of artifice. And in doing so, he redefined what country music could be, the guitar that spoke. The legend of Trigger. No instrument in country music is more iconic than Trigger. Willie Nelson's battered Martin N20 classical guitar, purchased in 1969 for $750 at a pawn shop in Houston. Trigger has been with him through every major moment of his career. It's been repaired countless times. Neck cracks, body patches, worn frets, but Willie refuses to replace it. Why? Because it sounds like home. Trigger's tone is warm, slightly nasal, and perfectly matched to Willie's voice. Over the decades, it has developed a unique character. Each dent, scratch, and repair adding to its soul. Willie once said, "Trigger doesn't play me. I play with him. He treats the guitar like a living thing, talking to it, sleeping with it, even taking it to the vet when it needed repairs." In 2014, the Country Music Hall of Fame enshrined Trigger as a national treasure. Scrap, duct tape, and all, it stands not just as an instrument, but as a symbol of endurance, loyalty, and imperfection. The touring machine. Life on the road. Willie Nelson didn't just tour, he lived on the road. For over 6 decades, he performed nearly 150 shows a year, earning the nickname the hardest working man in country music. His band, family, has remained remarkably stable. Paul English, drummer and lifelong friend, who passed in 2020. Bobbie Nelson, his sister and pianist, who played with him for over 50 years until her death in 2022. Micah Rea, bassist and musical director. Mickey Raphael, harmonica player since 1973. Their chemistry was telepathic, intuitive, and full of joy. Willie didn't fly commercial. He traveled on Honeysuckle Rose, his private tour bus, and later, his private plane, named after one of his early hits. He once said, "Home is wherever I'm playing tonight," and fans believed him. The final years, a warrior to the end of in his 90s. Willie refused to retire. In 2018, at age 85, he released Last Man Standing, an album reflecting on mortality and survival. In 2019, Ride Me Back Home explored themes of aging, animals, and legacy. In 2022, A Beautiful Time, released when he was 89, showcased his undiminished creativity. In 2023, he toured with his sons Lucas and Micah, performing classics and new songs under the stars. He faced health issues and hip surgery, heart treatment, but kept going. When asked why, he said, "I don't know how to stop." He didn't make music to be remembered. He made it because he had to, and in doing so, he became immortal. The legacy. Why Willie Nelson will never fade: because truth is timeless, because the working man still exists, because a voice that sings from the soul will never fade. Willie mattered because he spoke for the voiceless, the farmer, the addict, the lover, the wanderer. He didn't glorify poverty. He didn't romanticize prison. He just told the truth. His music wasn't escapism, it was connection. And in a world of curated images and manufactured stars, that's revolutionary. The final reflection. The man who sang the truth. Willie Nelson may one day die, but he will never really leave. He lives in the strum of Trigger on a back porch. The silence before the final note of Angel flying too close to the ground. Tears of a fan hearing Yesterday When I Was Young for the first time. The strength of a man who sings his songs while missing someone he loves. He was not a saint, he was a sinner, and that's why we love him. So here's to Willie Nelson, the outlaw who changed the game, the poet who stayed real, the man who sang like a storm and lived like a legend.